On my latest video where I made some framed prints of some black and white pictures I took of Ocotillo plants, several questions came up, hey buddy, in the comments that I figured warranted a little follow-up video here. So I wanted to do a quick video just to address those questions in case you guys are interested. Now, before we get into it, I just want to point out that if you received a reply from me on your comment that seemed kind of nonsensical, that wasn't me. Some spam bot created a profile, ripped off my avatar picture, and commented, "Buy Bitcoin," and all this other nonsense on my video. So I reported it. The profile's taken down, so everything's fine now. But you know, that's the cost of being a massive worldwide phenomenon. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and me, we all have to deal with it. So this last video where I made prints, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised at how many people enjoyed it. When I posted that video, I thought maybe it'd be too slow-paced or kind of boring for people. You know, the on-location videos, I'm always pretty confident people are going to enjoy them because you got the glitz and glam of going out to the desert and cameras and equipment and pictures and traveling and all that kind of stuff. So I get the feeling a lot of people are going to like those. But when I do like a print video like this, I always assume, there's not that many people that are really gonna connect with this. But it was awesome to see how many people enjoyed it. So thank you guys. Thanks for the contributions. Thanks for the positive comments. Thanks for enjoying it. Thanks for supporting it. It's awesome. It warms the cockles of my heart. Think cockles, hold on. Yes, cockles of one's heart. I use that right. Okay, so the questions. One thing that a viewer pointed out, which is actually interesting to me, Ocotillo cactus are not cactus at all. They're just a plant. All right, get out of here. So I kept calling them Ocotillo cactus, and I guess I assumed they were cactus because they live in the desert and they're spiky. But they are not cactus. They're not cactus at all. So that was interesting. Thanks for the viewer who messaged me that. Now, the number one question I got was, what's the cost of these prints that I made? And look, I'll be honest with you. I don't generally talk money and prices on my videos because I don't feel it's professional in terms of my client relations, because my client's probably going to see the video and I don't want to be advertising what they paid for a piece. That's between me and the client. That's number one. But also, you know, I have individual prints on my website. You can look up my prices pretty easy. Just go to my website. Now I get with the framing, I think that's more what people are interested in. Like what was the total cost of this thing with the frame? So each one, print and frame all together, cost just shy of about $400. So they're not cheap. And the framing was the most expensive part of that, of course. And also I went with a UV blocking glass, which is more expensive than just standard glass. But I like the extra protection of UV blocking, keeps the print safe for longer in theory. If I went with museum glass, which looks awesome because it's basically zero reflections, a museum glass would have upped the price probably twice, I would think. So I didn't go with museum glass. Now, when I do projects like these where I'm delivering a framed piece, I generally don't mark up the framing at all. So in other words, I mark up the print so I can make a profit off the print. And then I just tack on whatever the cost of framing is on top of that. I'm sure not all artists do that. They may mark up the framing as well, but I don't. I just kind of add that on top of whatever I'm charging for the print. So my profit stays the same whether it's a framed print or a print only. But just shy of $400, that's what each one cost. And I'm not going to tell you what I sold it to the client for because that would be unprofessional. Another question that came up, why not darkroom print? You know, these are black and white prints, and scanning the negative and then printing it digitally, I know to some people is ridiculous. And just side note on that, I get kind of exhausted by that line of questioning, like, well, why are you shooting film if you're just scanning it and then printing it digitally? Like, isn't it just a digital photo? Why not just shoot digital? It's a lot easier. You're doing a digital photo anyway. I'm so exhausted and bored by that line of questioning because if I have to explain why I'm shooting film, even though it's ending up as a digital file, then you're not gonna understand anyway. If I have to explain it, you wouldn't understand. So I'm not gonna get into the details on like why I shoot film, even though I'm digital printing. That's a conversation for another video that requires several glasses of whiskey for me to get through it. But just in this instance, why not do a darkroom print? That is a fair question. Because they are black and white, it would be relatively straightforward to get a darkroom print. So first off, I would need to have a darkroom, which I don't. I don't have a darkroom here, I don't have a home darkroom, and I have no plans to make one because I just don't have the room. But I could get access to a darkroom. There is a community darkroom, a couple cities over in Irvine that I could use. But there is a big difference between printing like an 8x10 in the darkroom versus printing a 24x24 from a 6x6 negative. You gotta have the space, you gotta have the trays that can handle it, you gotta have the enlarger that can handle it, you gotta have the room to handle it. It's more complex than it seems at first blush. Now 8x10s, all day, darkroom, makes perfect sense because that's manageable. You can process those pretty easily, and you don't need a specialized darkroom with big enlargers and lots of space and all that kind of stuff. But these are 24x24 inch prints. Doing it in a darkroom would just be miles and miles more difficult than doing it the way I did it. And pigment prints on hand and mule photo rag paper, which is what I did, are gorgeous. So I don't feel like I'm losing anything in terms of like the actual visual appeal of the print. You're just kind of losing the analog points for it not being a darkroom print. But I gotta do what I gotta do to get the print size I need. And they're beautiful, they're gorgeous. Good digital prints from a lab like ProPhoto Connection are stunning. So the only reason to really do a darkroom print was if I wanted the street cred of printing in a darkroom. So not having access to the right darkroom and not really caring that much about the street cred in this instance, it just made sense to do it the way I did it. So scanning negative and then printing it digitally works for me in this case. Next thing that came up is the light leak on those images. Not a large proportion, but a couple of people tried to shame me about the light leak. Oh, you're selling a defective print? I'm surprised someone even bought such a defective photo. Okay, I'll try not to get on too in-depth of a rant here, but I get that to some people, a light leak makes a picture defective. But I'm past the point of obsessing about technical perfection. This obsession over like, oh, did you use the sweet spot aperture? You never close down all the way and you never open up all the way. You got to use exactly this shutter speed. And if you're like scanning it and there's a little bit of leak or the grain's too high, like that obsession over that stuff drives me nuts because it doesn't translate to anything in terms of artwork for a wall. All that matters for the artwork on a wall is, does it look cool? Does the client like it? That's all I care about. So this obsession over technical perfection, it destroyed the digital photography world. I'm convinced of that. That's why people obsess over dynamic range, they obsess over sharpness, they obsess over megapixels, they obsess over all these things, and no one ever talks about, is the picture good? Like that doesn't even enter the conversation. I don't care if the picture is blurry, grainy, out of focus, freaking wrong aperture. I don't care. If the picture's awesome, that's all that matters. There's plenty of historical, amazing, iconic photos that are technically imperfect in every possible way, but they're still amazing photos and we still continue to publish them again and again and again because they matter. The content of the picture is so much more important. Years ago, I found this book that absolutely changed my photography completely. It's called Why It Does Not Have to Be in Focus, Modern Photography Explained. And the book kind of just goes through a bunch of examples of, iconic, famous photographs that are technically imperfect. And the gist of the book is, look, all this obsession over perfect technique doesn't matter really when it comes to art. Art is completely subjective. There shouldn't be stringent rules on art. That's kind of what makes it art. So reading that book kind of changed my mindset on photography. It was an important turning point for me because I stopped obsessing over, hyperfocal distance and getting the aperture to the sweet spot and, perfect technique to get a perfectly sharp picture. I realized we all just randomly and arbitrarily agreed that the mark of a good photograph is that it was perfectly sharp. It like dawned on me that, oh, why did we all decide that's what makes a picture good? Perfect sharpness. Painters don't seem to worry about that, so why are we so caught up about it? At least when it comes to wall art. I get when you're shooting for a commercial client, if you're doing a car ad, it's got to be tack sharp. I get it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about wall art. So that changed my mindset a little bit, and I started making photos where I intentionally made it out of focus. And I created some of my favorite photos. I went with some multi-exposure stuff that was very fly by the seat of your pants and not perfectly thought out, not technically perfect. And I created a bunch of photos where I was letting go of the rules a little bit. And I created some photos that I was really proud of. So coming back to these shots here that had the light leak. Yeah, technically imperfect. But that doesn't mean it's a bad photo. I like the photos, and the client liked the photos. And guess what? Those are the only two people that matter. The person paying you and you when you're making it. That's all that matters. In fact, you could argue you don't even matter. As long as the client likes it, that's all that matters. So, for anyone who doesn't like my pictures with light leaks, here's the good news. You don't have to like them. That's fine. And here's the better news. I don't have to care. So, that's it on the light leaks. Sorry for the rant, but I'm very passionate about the idea of this whole technical perfection thing polluting the waters in photography. It actually drives me nuts to see burgeoning photographers, new photographers, and they're getting all hung up on oh, but the dynamic range of this camera and what aperture should I really use? It's like, shut up. Just go out and take good photos. The content matters, the composition matters much more than all these technical things that some photographers obsess about. So if you're hung up on that yourself, try to loosen up a bit. Because you probably create better photos. You might create something more interesting than just a technically perfect, perfectly sharp picture of something that doesn't matter. In fact, Ansel Adams, I think, said, there's nothing worse than a sharp picture of a fuzzy concept, something along those lines. Beautiful comment, amazing insight from that mind. Okay, finally, now that we're done ranting. The last thing that a lot of people asked about was the sticker that I put on the back of the prints, along with the serial number that went with it. So people asked, where could I get those? I made them. So I just took a word processing program. I used Apple Pages, but you could use Microsoft Word or something. And I just created this template of a sticker to go on the back of the print. And it has things like, genuine limited edition fine art piece, the image title. I put the location on there because often people want to know that. The film used, edition number, image size, SKU, which is the date that I took the picture, and then the number roll that I shot. So 1 would be the first roll of the day, and then 05 would be the 5th image on that roll. So I assign that SKU to every picture that I take. And then when I make the print, I assign it a serial number, a 10-digit randomly generated number that is the serial number for that specific print. Now, I do a serial number specifically so that people can't rip off my prints. Because I'm so massively worldwide famous, me, Brad Pitt, and George Clooney, because I'm so massively famous, I got to worry about people ripping off my prints. So I need to put a serial number. I'm obviously joking. I'm not massive worldwide famous. No one's going to rip off my prints. But I am thinking for the future. Way down the road, if I actually reach a level where I'm respected as a photographer, as an artist, and my work is some sort of a commodity, someone comes to me, hey, I found this print at a garage sale and I want to make sure it's a genuine Nick Carver. I can have them look up the serial number on the back. I keep a spreadsheet of all the prints I sell, along with the serial number assigned to it, the print size, and who I sold it to, so that I could cross-reference it if it ever came up. I'm not so egotistical to think it'll ever come up, but it's one of those things where it doesn't hurt to apply a serial number, and it helps me keep track of the print, know who I sold it to, what edition number it is, and you know, what size the print is. So I put all that stuff on the back and then I sign it. I always sign in gold ink, just something I've decided to do. And then I put the date that the framed piece was made. Now, these labels, I print them out on these full sheet labels. You can get these at just, you know, any office supply store. These are meant for like packages. So I printed out on these. They have an adhesive back. I cut them with a paper cutter, and then they go on the back of the framed piece. Now, if I'm selling a print only, it's not framed, I do not make the label because I don't want to put a label on the back of the print. And the reason for that is when they go to mount it, they might need to do an adhesive on the back. And if there's a label on the back side of it, they may not be able to mount it. So I don't want to put anything on the back side of the print directly because that may make it more difficult to frame for the client. Now, every print also gets a certificate of authenticity. And this, again, is just to go along with the print to ensure it came from me and it's a genuine me picture. So I just mocked this up, again, in a word processing program. Or actually, I think I did this in Photoshop. So I just put, you know, my name, certificate of authenticity, genuine, limited edition print. And then I put the title, I write in the title, the image ID, size, edition number, serial number, and then I sign it in gold ink and date it. So similar to the label. Now, I had these printed on a type of paper called vellum, which is actually really cool. It's kind of see-through, as you can see here, which makes it kind of a unique piece. And then I took it to a professional printing house so they could do raised ink on it, you know, like they do on business cards sometimes. So I had them do raised ink. I got like a few hundred of them printed, and I just pull one of these out and fill it out anytime I sell a print. I did the raised ink because it looks cool, man. I like raised ink. And this paper is kind of interesting. So just little things to add some value to the print and to ensure that it's you know, genuine limited edition coming from me. Now, if you are thinking of doing a similar approach to your own artwork, I encourage you to do it differently. Don't copy me exactly. That's kind of the point of all this stuff, is you do something unique to you. You are the artist. Do something that is uniquely you. So come up with your own labels or some other way to identify a picture, and then you're off to the races. Oh, by the way, the serial number, I generate that with an app I have on my Mac, which is called RPG. It's just a password generator, and I can set it to 10 digits, and then I click generate, and it comes up with a new 10-digit serial number that I assign to the print. So yeah, there you go. That's all the questions that came up. So again, I really appreciate everyone's support and interest in the previous video. Making 4 prints like that is even more fun when I get to share it with people who actually are interested in the process. So thanks for watching. Thanks for contributions. Anyone who sent a contribution, they're very helpful. And yeah, till next time. I'll see you next time we're making a print or going on location. Thanks for watching, guys.